4th down and 1 for the Rams. Niners lead by 3, a chance to win it with a stop here in overtime. Stafford gets under center at the 11-yard line. He takes it, he turns, he gives to Kyren Williams. He gets packed. I think he's short, Tim. I think he's short. And the 49ers storm the field. It is all over. The 49ers have won it in overtime here in LA.
What an unbelievable win. High drama finishes in favor of the MASH unit, the 49ers, and they earned it.
Oh, seems like ages ago, the 49ers Week 5 victory over the LA Rams on a Thursday night from SoFi Stadium. Well, they're on the road yet again after 10 days off for a Week 6 tilt against another 4-1 opponent, this time at Raymond James Stadium in Tampa against the 4-1 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Adam Copeland, John Dickinson with you. Kickoff today at 1:25, and we'll have it for you right here on The Sports Leader. We'll hand it over at about 12:25 to the broadcast team today, Justin Allegri and Tim Ryan. Adam Copeland, JD with you. JD, it was, reliving it, dude. It seems like it was a year ago, that game, and the 49ers, as banged up as they are, even that long might not get them healthy as they still come into today a little banged up. But how are we doing today, bro, as the 49ers look ahead to Week 6?
Yeah, doing well, and this is the marquee matchup across the NFL for Week 6, the 4-1 versus 4-1. This game was flexed from the 10 a.m. Pacific window into the 1:25. It's the Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, Hello Friends game of the afternoon on CBS. So really looking forward to it. And, yeah, you look at everything that's happened with the 49ers getting the extra time off, and are they healthier? Not really. We'll get into that, of course, for the next couple of hours here. But the other issue is you look at some good things that have happened across the league as it relates to the Niners, in particular the NFC. Everybody else lost in the NFC West last week. You had the Eagles lose twice since the 49ers last played because they played on Thursday. The NFC right now looks as wide open as it's ever been, and that puts the 49ers in a great spot here among these teams right at the top.
Yeah, a win today would actually make the 49ers, and it's always funny to think about it this way. If the season ended today, it never does, but if it did, a 49er win would put them in as the number 1 seed across the NFC. Again, you mentioned it, basically at least 2 games clear of anybody right behind them in the division, being that they've beaten now every team in the NFC West. So as banged up as the 49ers are at 4-1, are they the most surprising 4-1 team to you, JD? Because I think when you look at it contextually, it is surprising knowing what we know about them now, with the young players that have had to play, with the injuries they've dealt with. Brock Purdy, we know, is going to miss another game today, his 4th game of the season that he'll miss. We know Nick Bosa is out for the season. But at the beginning of the year, the 49ers were viewed across the league as a team maybe poised and capable of taking the step forward. But even that step forward from where they were last year at 6-11, I don't know how many people saw it at 4-1. How surprised are you that they are where they are right now?
I think you said it. It's circumstantial. If they had been healthy and buttoned up and most of their main players playing, I do think because of the schedule, a lot of people thought 4-1 was on the table for this team, but there's no way anybody could have expected them to be 4-1, considering the fact that Mac Jones has had to play and start in 3 of these games, and they've gone 3-0 in those games, and all of the different young players that have made an impact, all the different veteran players that they signed. So much was made of the veterans that the 49ers moved on from in the offseason, but a lot of those players in the second tier of the roster that they've added have really been impactful for this team. So I think the nod of most surprising 4-1 probably goes to Indianapolis or Jacksonville.
That's fair.
They can battle it out. But considering the 49ers circumstances, to have them, currently as we sit here leading the NFC, and it's a 1 versus 2 today between San Francisco and Tampa Bay, with the Lions also in that mix, it truly is a surprise. And I know we're going to get into it, but one of the other just aspects of this game specifically that I'm excited about is the fact that both of these teams have just played epic games in 4 of the 5 weeks, winning games on the final possession with touchdowns in the case of Baker Mayfield, or defensive stops in what the 49ers have done in a couple of these games in addition to big scores. So it truly is a battle of the 2 teams who have played the most bleep crazy games here these first 5 weeks, so it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. And you look at the number of points in which the Buccaneers have won. I think it's like a total of 4 wins by a combined 9 points or something like that. You point out the Niners weren't blowing anybody away and are actually, for all intents and purposes, looking for a looking for maybe a chief calling card right now, it's the run defense. They've done a pretty good job against the run so far this year, which is something that we knew they had to fix and sort of retool this offseason. The edge rush is something they're still in the hunt for. Just one QB hit, one sack last week from Bryce Huff after Nick Bosa goes down just a couple of weeks ago. These two teams, though, when we look at what's at stake today and what's on hand for today, you mentioned the 49ers still being banged up. We know no Brock Purdy. We know no Ricky Pearsall. Juwan Jennings, they say, is going to try to give it a go, but he is a game-time decision. As Kyle Shanahan told Derek and I this week, it's going to, quote, come down to the wire for Juwan Jennings. On the other side of things, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, no Mike Evans, no Chris Godwin, no Bucky Irving out of the backfield, but they do have a stud young wide receiver in Emeka Egbuka. Are the 49ers as prepared as anybody, being that they've done this now for a handful of weeks and certainly did it as shorthanded as they did last Thursday in that win on the road? Are they as prepared as anybody to win a game down a couple, if not 5, 6, 7 guys in a game on the road like this?
I think they are, and I think it starts with the way that Mac Jones has played. I mean, that's probably been the biggest surprise, and the way that this young defense has played under Robert Saleh. Those have been the two things that have kind of led the charge in terms of the defense as we've gotten into winning the big moments. They've been vulnerable at different points in a lot of these games, but they've been mostly stout and winning the big moments. And the 49ers, for their own inability to run, Christian McCaffrey's been huge in the pass game, and Mac Jones has just been an absolute stud in the games that he's played, including his ability to grind through injuries. And it's a new injury that popped up on the report this week, the oblique, that I think for Mac Jones is far greater concern than even the knee, because the knee at this point, at least coming into this game, he got an opportunity with the extra time to kind of rest that up. It still could be a problem as the season progresses, but right now I think the oblique is the thing that's on top of everybody's minds. But yeah, both these teams have the capability of winning shorthanded. Both just battle and compete. And I use this term a lot, the chaos junkies. Both of these teams have been chaos junkies this year. The crazier the game, the bigger the moment. They've both come up big. Really only one clunker. The Buccaneers had a clunker a couple of weeks ago at home against the Eagles at Raymond James Stadium. The 49ers had the clunker that they still almost won against the Jags going back a couple of weeks ago today.
They did, of course, lose that game by putting up 4 turnovers and not creating one. 4-0. They lost that game by 5 points. Speaking of Mac Jones, why don't we get into the QB comparison for today? Sponsored by Friedman's Appliance, proudly serving all of Northern California with a wide selection of luxury appliances. Visit them in Pleasant Hill to see the Friedman's difference. And by Dolce Vita Tequila, tequila pure and simple. JD, let's start with Mac Jones for what we saw from him last Thursday in Los Angeles. Now, you mentioned the oblique that he's now dealing with, a new injury that's flared up this week. I guess he was reportedly maybe dealing with it at the very end of that game against the Rams. Was even asked this week, would you have been able to keep playing had that game continued on and the Rams kicked a field goal instead of going for it on 4th down and not picking it up? And he said, well, I didn't have to find out. A good thing we didn't have to figure it out. And I think the answer there is he was uncertain. I mean, it may very well have been Adrian Martinez, who even after he got hit in his final time, Mac Jones, and kind of peeled himself off the turf and was cramped up. His body was cramping, forearm was cramping, was able to make the plays in overtime that the 49ers needed to get that win. He's played exceptionally well to this point. I mean, one of the highlights, I think, of the NFL season in terms of guys stepping in and outperforming what any expectations of their 2025 could look like. What have you seen from him? How concerned are you in his ability to make every throw and make every play that Kyle calls on him today? Because that was part of what went into that Jacksonville game. We talked about, and even the Arizona game where he went around, or excuse me, not the Jags game, the Arizona game where down near the goal line, Kyle couldn't call every play that he wanted to because Mac was kind of too banged up to even make some of those plays. Any concern with that today?
Yeah, I think there is. And I think today it's game plan specific as it relates to really managing the injury, I think, for Kyle Shanahan. And I know Mac alluded to the fact that they have a plan in place, was kind of the way he phrased it for just, how they want to go about managing the game, given the fact that he's injured. We saw in the practice field during the week that he wasn't doing a lot of throwing, so they're almost trying to save the bullets that maybe he's got in the arm there, because it can obviously, I mean, anybody that's had any kind of oblique injury, I mean, it basically anything you try to do hurts, especially when you're trying to throw a football or throw a baseball or really just kind of move around, generally about your day. So I think it's definitely something that's going to be monitored. Is it going to be the short passing game? How do the 49ers really mitigate the blitzing that Tampa will do against them? I think is going to be key. But I think the game plan, Cobes, to that point, is going to have to be in line with their judgment of just how well physically Mac Jones can hold up today.
And so Mac Jones gets a start again today, expected to play for the 49ers, though he enters today with a questionable designation, but is expected to be out there for this one. In terms of the other side of things, Baker Mayfield, man, I mean, one of the gunslinger of all gunslingers in the NFL, and is having a really, really good start to the season. I wanted to point out, last year he completed over 70% of his passes, had the best statistical season of his career, over 40 touchdowns with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Last week, 29 of 33. That's 87.9 on the completion percentage. 379, 2 touchdowns with a 134.7 passer rating. He's the first quarterback in NFL history with 375 passing yards and fewer than 5 incompletions in a single game. That's the game he's coming off of. And he's coming off of that performance where he had the rookie. I mean, one of the best early performances in a rookie receiver's career, JD, that we have ever seen. Check this note for Emeka Egbuka, the young wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Last week, 163 receiving yards and 7 catches. He's the first player in NFL history to have 25 or more catches, 400 or more receiving yards, and 5 or more receiving touchdowns in his first 5 career games. I mean, this is electric stuff. What's the uphill battle today for the 49ers against a top 10 quarterback, former number 1 overall pick?
Yeah, and Egbuka's a stud, absolute stud.
He's been fantastic.
Baker's playing at an MVP level. I mean, really. I mean, to me, it's Josh Allen and it's Baker Mayfield at this point. When you look at the top two, and Mayfield's been able to do it with all of the injuries. He's been able to do it in the clutch. We saw him have some clutch moments against the 49ers in November when the 49ers last played at Raymond James Stadium, second consecutive year. They'll play at Raymond James Stadium against the Bucs, and that was really the last Niner bright spot of 2024. They won that game to get to 5-4, and then it was all downhill from there. They only won one more game the rest of the season at that point, losing 7 of 8. But that was a moment where Baker made a lot of plays, and that was a shorthanded Bucs team on that day, and a 49ers team, it was 2 desperate teams really looking for a win there. But yeah, Baker's been just absolutely incredible, and these teams mirror each other, not necessarily in the way they go about it, but in the way that they've been able to effectively win the biggest moments of these games late.
Adam Copeland, John Dickinson with you, 49ers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
What's going on in the Tim Lynn Broadcast Center?
What's going on in Daly City, huh?
Tim?
We got the Niners and the Bucs, a 125 kickoff. We are streaming, by the way, twitch.tv/thesportsleader, KNBR.com or thesportsleader.com, and the The Sports Leader app. When we come on back, what do we know about the San Francisco 49ers after that win against the LA Rams, and how much more help do they need? They've survived at least one game now without Nick Bosa, and really 1 3/4 without Bosa. How much longer can they go? Nick Bosa has absolutely owned Baker Mayfield in their career. Baker 0-4 against the 49ers. Does any of that change today without Bosa? We'll talk about it next. The Bucs and the Niners, 125, and it's only right here on The Sports Leader.
Not really. What increases my interest is who's the guy that can absolutely help us get better this year without hurting us next year, and you balance both of those out. But there's got to be a guy available, and sometimes it's two different things. Sometimes there's one guy who can only help this year. Sometimes there isn't a guy available who's like that. So we'll see what comes up. Sometimes things come up, but I don't see any different right now than how I felt going into the year.
49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan on potential trade acquisitions this season for the 49ers. Adam Copeland, John Dickinson with you ahead of Week 6 Niners and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A 125 kickoff. We'll have it for you all right here on The Sports Leader. JD, I mean, John Lynch has been as active in my mind as any GM in football. And the trade deadline in football, you agree that it's much different now than it used to be, right? When we were kids, the trade deadline was – first of all, it was earlier. It was like week 6 or something like that. Like, and it would come and go, and nothing would happen. And if anybody was traded, it was of minor significance. It was like a depth piece or somebody you felt like was like a practice squad type of player. You would end up every once in a while with major blockbusters or a big time guy getting traded, but more often than not, it was just kind of an afterthought. And now, since it's been moved back and the way teams go about navigating their roster, it's used the way baseball's trade deadline used to be used. Like, you go out and you add to a strength, or you try to fill a deficiency or a void. The Niners have done that in the Lynch era as much as anybody.
They have, and yeah, it's one area from an NFL standpoint that they were lagging behind Major League Baseball, maybe the one area where they were lagging behind Major League Baseball and even the NBA that can have some blockbusters go down right at the trade deadline. But you're right. I mean, they almost took a look at it and said, hey, we gotta figure out a way to maximize this. We gotta have all these bad teams that are out of the race. If there are bad teams, we gotta have their big time players going to the good teams and help trying to put them over the top. And it creates, rumors and discussion, and really that whole second quarter of the season now is about, just like it is in baseball or in the NBA, who's buying and who's selling at the deadline, who had a big injury that they have to try to overcome. And the 49ers, obviously with the Nick Bosa situation, find themselves on the market. At least I think 49er fans want them to be on the market for a pass rusher. I know Diana Rossini with the report late yesterday about the 49ers checking in on a name that we've discussed a ton, which is Trey Hendrickson of the Cincinnati Bengals. And so I think, from my standpoint, I'm interested in your take on this. What have you kind of made of the fact that the Niners have, I think, been cautious enough in the way they've spoken about going after someone at the deadline to where it kind of makes me think it makes me think that it certainly wasn't in the original plan to be looked to adding, but they're also very much saying, hey, this team might have to keep playing at the level that they're playing for the front office to say, okay, this team, we believe in them as legitimate championship contenders. Because if you don't think that, and there's a case to be made that they're not because of the point differential and winning all the close games, what can they prove over the course of these next 3-4 weeks to be able to become a team where you believe? Do they have to win today? Do they have to win every game between now and the Giants game the first weekend in November? I mean, that I think is truly fascinating.
Well, such is the perplexity of the 2025 49ers. Do you know what you're seeing, and can you believe what you've seen in terms of, is it tangible or tangibly competitive or contender in nature? You know what I mean? Like, they've won games.
Exactly.
But we can't pinpoint any one thing where we go, yes, they're a good passing offense. They've actually put up the 5th most yards of any team in football right now, and they're 4-1 at this point. They're not a great scoring team. They're top 25 in scoring, which means you're bottom 10 in scoring at number 22 overall. They keep runners from breaking long runs on them. They've done a pretty good job in the run game, but none of those things individually or even as a whole in context make you go, okay, this team has the it factor or what it takes. We know that when Brock gets healthy, they're going to be a different-looking team. We know that George Kittle could be back next week, and that is going to make the run game, you would hope, look a little bit different. I think to the point of, like, are they contenders enough to go out and buy? John Lynch, for all the great GMs we have here in the Bay Area, Buster Posey trying to make his name and his voice and motive felt with the Giants. We know Mike Dunleavy, what he's doing with the Warriors, and now John Lynch. All three of these guys are really good at talking and not saying much of anything. So I do think at times John Lynch reveals kind of what their mindset is. And what he said a couple of weeks ago on the morning show with Murph and Marcus was, you have to earn the right to be a contender again. You have to earn the right to be a team that goes out and buys. We know what it looks like when John Lynch views the team as a contender. He went out and he traded for Emmanuel Sanders a few years ago, back in 2019, knowing they needed a deep ball threat and somebody out of the slot, somebody that could stretch the field a little bit, and he gave them a weapon that they did not previously have. We know that when a player like Christian McCaffrey or Trent Williams or anybody of that nature, even Khalil Mack, we know he called on him when he was available. We know that if like a top talent in the league becomes available, John Lynch is going to call. We know that when he wanted a quarterback and they ended up getting Jimmy Garoppolo, he even asked Bill Belichick about trading him Tom Brady. So they're not afraid to go out and ask teams, hey, what's it going to cost to get this player? And if what Tim Kawakami wrote is to be believed, and I don't know why it wouldn't be, from about a month or so ago, the voice, or I guess it was a couple of weeks ago when Nick Bosa went down, he says that the names and the voices that he's heard around the organization say if they're going to make a major in-season splash for a player, it's a player of the nature of Max Crosby, Hendrickson, a big splash like that, like they would be willing to break the bank. So when Kyle, you heard that clip coming in, says something along the lines of, we don't want it to hamper us or hinder us from next year. It's because we don't know what next year looks like yet. We know what this year kind of looks like right now. And how much are you willing to mortgage the future with picks that you know you're going to need the next couple of years? We've already seen the importance of that in these last two drafts, how much these picks have to hit. How much are we willing to mortgage for a player that might financially hamper us? Now, as the Niners continue to win games, and if you stockpile wins, you feel differently at 3-0 in division and 4-1 than even you felt going into the Thursday night game. Now you look around and you go, are there pieces that can help? Hendrickson is only on a one-year deal. How fast are the Bengals fading? They're going to start Joe Flacco today and see if they can, for the first time in NFL history, have a quarterback win a game against the same team twice in one season for two organizations. The Bengals are trying to stay afloat. So they haven't mailed it in yet, but they know that if they get to the trade deadline, and Joe Burrow's, still 2 months away or 2.5 months away, and they don't have enough wins to compete now. What's in their favor is that division right now. Nobody's running away with it, so they can kind of hang around, I think, is their hope. My point here is I don't know that the 49ers are contenders, and I think it's going to take more consistent play in certain areas of the game for us to feel like that's legit. And it's going to take Brock Purdy coming back or knowing what the future holds for this season at quarterback. But I would still be hard-pressed to think that the 49ers won't at some point add somebody at a defensive end or an edge rusher position just because they're at such a deficiency. They were at a deficiency with it to start the year. It's like adding bullpen depth, JD. Like, why wouldn't you? If you can get it, why wouldn't you? I think it would probably be somebody who's maybe not quite as expensive and certainly somebody who's on like a rental half-a-season deal. I don't think they're looking for anybody long-term.
Well, and all great answers. I just think they're also in this retool, and I think it goes back to what your own expectations for your organization are coming into a season.
Sure.
And I think the 49ers accepted with some of the moves that they made in the offseason, some of the subtractions. I think they internally, not publicly, of course, but internally accepted the fact that maybe this year's team wasn't going to win as much as some of these teams the last few years. Now, I'm not by any means saying, well, they won 6 games last year. That was not going to be acceptable. But the years of winning, 13 back-to-back years, that I think, it's more like the 10 range. I think is probably what with the schedule would have been kind of the expectation. And maybe you're good enough to win the division. Maybe you're not. Maybe you find yourself in a wild card race toward the end of the year where you get in. Maybe if it's a weird year where you don't have the right tiebreakers, you don't. But they're in this like big picture retool where I think the draft picks for next year and beyond are more important, because I think they're trying to solidify this thing not only for 25 and 26, but they are trying to solidify it for 27, 28, and beyond. So I do think it's a little tricky. So that's kind of one side of the argument. It's like if you didn't believe this team was a contender coming into the year, and there are enough red flags as far as some of the numbers and the way that they've played and the injuries and all of that to maybe further that opinion. They're also 4-1 in the 1 seed right now in the NFC, and a wide open NFC where the Eagles look vulnerable. And it just so that's the flip side of the argument is, well, at what point, if you keep on winning, do you not owe it to the players in that locker room for this season when you've got so many of your big name players, Copes, that have come so close to winning a Super Bowl? You've got a fan base. It's been over 30 years now since they've last seen them win a Super Bowl. You've got a fan base in a froth that really wants it so badly. At what point do you say, hey, we owe it to everybody to go after it in this 2025 campaign?
Adam Copeland, John Dickinson with you. The 49ers and the Buccaneers coming your way at 1:25 right here on the Sports Leader, just under 3 hours away from kickoff. Justin Allegri and Tim Ryan on the call from Raymond James Stadium today in Tampa Bay. Let's get you Who's Hot, sponsored by Valley Heating, Cooling, Electrical, and Solar. Locally and family owned for 62 years and sponsored by Rayleigh's and Nob Hill. Save more on the flavors you love and find better deals for your budget at Rayleigh's and Nob Hill. If you could point to any one thing, let's say over the last 3 games, is there any consistency as to how they've won in any manner of the game, JD, in your mind? Is there anybody we can say is hot right now?
I think Mac Jones is hot. I think Kendrick Bourne's hot coming off of the game that he had last game against the Rams. And that connection, I think, is hot and one to keep an eye on because we were all wondering going into the game against the Rams, who the heck is – and to me it was less about Mac Jones' ability. I think we'd seen enough from Mac in the system to think he could perform capably. To me it was more, hey, who are the weapons going to be? And Kendrick Bourne emerged as somebody who had the connection with Mac from going back to the New England Patriots time. So I think those would be two that I would – to me it's got to be Mac or it's got to be Kendrick Bourne coming off of the win against the Rams, and you look at what have the indicators been for the Niners and whether they win these games. I mean, to me, it's been the turnovers. They lose the turnover battle miserably against the Jags. They lose that game. They win and or get or at least break even in the turnover battle, get the critical turnovers in some of these other games, and it's been the difference. Yeah,
the Kendrick Bourne numbers from last game: 10 catches, 142 yards, career highs after 205 total yards last season in 12 games for the Patriots. He goes 142 on 10 grabs last week. And how about this note? We'll make Christian McCaffrey our other Who's Hot player after he went 30 touches, 139 scrimmage yards, and a receiving touchdown on Thursday against the Rams. Per ESPN, Christian McCaffrey is the only player with at least 100 yards from scrimmage in every game and is looking to become the first player in NFL history in the NFL since Saquon Barkley and Adam Thielen did it in 2018 to do it in the first 6 games. So first to do 100 scrimmage in the first 5, and first to do it since 2018 when those two guys, both Thielen and Saquon Barkley, put together that feat through 6 games. We'll take a quick break when we come on back. Matt Mayoko, our 49ers insider from NBC Sports Bay Area. You see him on the NBC's pre- and post-game coverage of 49er football. We'll catch up with Matt, get his thoughts on this one next. Adam Copeland, John Dickinson with you. The Niners and the Bucs, a 1:25 kickoff from Raymond James Stadium, and we'll have it for you right here on The Sports Leader.
Yeah, I think everybody did, honestly. It was a tough game. Any overtime game in the NFL, you're going to have guys who are playing more plays, and the defense did a great job, and I was really just proud of the team, and that's part of football is playing tough, and the tough part is, getting back and having to do it the next week. So we had a couple days, and at the end of the day, all these games are going to hopefully come down to one score, and you just got to be tough and mentally, physically, and put your body through it and then keep playing.
That was Mac Jones, 49ers, I guess, number 2 quarterback, but the starter and the winner of 3 games for the Niners so far this year. He's talking about last Thursday's game. It was tough for everybody, but they found a way to come out with a victory, and they are 4-1 heading into a matchup with another 4-1 team in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa today. Joining us now is our guy Matt Mayoko, 49ers insider from NBC Sports Bay Area. Matt, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing well. Did he say hopefully all these games come down to one score? I would think that the more one-score games there is, the more years it takes off one's life.
Yeah.
But apparently Mac thrives on the chaos and the pressure, so good for him.
Clearly, at this point, he and Baker Mayfield both. We'll talk about the Buccaneers here in just a minute. How odd is it? I know that there's a precedent, at least with Brock Purdy, going back to his first year when he became the starter after Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo went down. But how unusual is it for a quarterback to not throw in practice during the week and then throw in the game that Sunday? I mean, that's kind of what we're looking at with Mac today, potentially.
Yeah, it's not ideal. When you have your quarterback who, when I was out there on Thursday, just in the pre-practice part, I mean, he was just like very light lobs, and when it came time to throw to the receivers, it was Doc, the equipment guy, and Adrian Martinez who were airing it out. It wasn't the starting quarterback. So yeah, definitely not an ideal situation. I think the idea is just to conserve his throwing until game day, and I think it's a combination. It's the knee, the left knee, which is the plant leg, and so you're putting a little bit of stress on that left knee anytime you're throwing, and also the oblique. So I don't think there was ever much thought at all that he would not be able to play in this game. And I think that was apparent by the fact that they didn't even bring in another quarterback. So, they knew that they would have 2 quarterbacks active on game day with Adrian Martinez as the backup. So I think they all along felt he could play, but they just wanted to conserve him as much as they could heading into this game.
Matt, how much do you feel the game plan is going to have to be tied to Jones' ability to hold up physically? And in what ways do you think that could manifest itself?
I think how it manifests itself is a very similar approach as what they did against the Rams from this standpoint. They did not run the ball effectively if you look at the stat sheet, but the fact that they ran the ball 33 times against the Rams, it tells you that they were doing a lot of things well. And the number one thing they did well was they didn't have any negative runs. So, they might have only averaged 2.5, 3 yards of carry, but at least it set themselves up for 3rd and short. They were in manageable situations. In 3 times, they were in positions where they got to 3rd down. They considered it 4-down territory, and they ended up picking up those 3 4th down opportunities. So I think it's going to be similar. I think that the Buccaneers do a really good job at forcing negative runs. And so I don't think Christian McCaffrey has to bust out and have this huge game and, the 49ers reassert their dominance on the ground necessarily. That would absolutely help them win this game. But I think it's going to be really difficult to do that. What they just have to do is avoid those, -1, -2 yard runs, because that's going to set up situations where, Mac Jones has to sit in the pocket and the Bucs can dial it up and get after him. So to me, that's kind of where this game is going to take shape. Is 49ers have no problems, or they'll feel a lot better trying to convert a 3rd and 3 or a 3rd and 2 as opposed to a 3rd and 8. That does not set up well for this team at this point, especially with Jennings. He'll be out there, but he'll be not quite 100%, maybe nowhere near 100%. And I don't know how many 142-yard games Kendrick Bourne has left in him, but I think that's how the Warriors have to approach this. And kind of like last week too, as long as they can run the ball somewhat effectively, move the chains, and keep Baker Mayfield off the field, that's a win.
Talking to Matt Mayoko here, Niners and the Bucks 125 kick right here on the Sports Leader. Matt, is it possible that run defense is the strength of the defense?
Well, it might be. It's so interesting because the 49ers defense just doesn't do a whole lot impressively.
Right. Yeah,
Yet,
it's effective.
Yet they won, but they won those first three games almost, predicated entirely off of their defense.
Yeah.
And even the game they lost, their defense kept them in it. And it was, special teams that kind of, that gave up some points along the way. I think that, the 49ers defense has a lot of room for improvement. But yeah, I guess it probably is. I mean, it's certainly not their pass defense, or it's not their pass rush. And I think the fact that Bosa is out for the season, I think in the two full games that he's been out, it's put a lot of stress on the defensive backfield. And the 49ers will be trying some different things on the back end this game. From what I understand, I reported that Jair Brown is going to see a more significant role in this game. Malik Mustafa will work his way into the mix. I don't think he's going to start initially, but I think you can pretty much bank on him starting next week. Of the four safeties, he is considered, I think, pretty clearly their number one guy. And so Jason Pinnock kind of takes a back seat, but there might be a role for him in this game as well. So I think right now on the back end, their cornerback situation is pretty well set, of course, but the safety is kind of a work in progress. And that's an area that I think Matthew Stafford went after those guys, Siegel and Pinnock, and I would expect Baker Mayfield to try to get the ball down the field and test those safeties as well.
Matt, ultimately, and you did have the report as to how the 49ers are going to shake out in the secondary and at the safety spot specifically. What do you think the ideal groupings are for once things get a little bit more settled and Mustafa gets brought back into the mix? I mean, what do you think their best combo of safeties is, and or is it just going to be where we've seen them go to kind of big safety looks and more coverage safety looks, and could it be a little bit more mix and match?
Yeah, I think it will be more mix and match, but I would say the ideal, what they would like to take shape would be Mustafa and Siegel as their starters. I think Siegel has shown some good stuff, and his pass coverage numbers are simply not good at all. But he's shown enough. A lot of these plays, he's right there, and just at the point of attack, he doesn't break it up. And that a lot of times in the NFL is kind of an acquired trait. It's something that experience helps with that regard. So, I think that the way the 49ers would like it to shake out is that Siegel continues to improve on the pass coverage part. I mean, he's a heat-seeking missile. As far as closing in on the football and making plays in the running game. I mean, it was a really good play to finish off that fourth down run, Kyron Williams, that ended the game Thursday night. So, if Siegel can improve in that area, then you're looking at Siegel and Mustafa, who could be together for, the remainder of this season and three more after it for sure. So that would be I think the ideal way to go. And then, whether they use Jair Brown and Big Nickel in place of Upton Stout in certain situations, and then in sure passing downs, obviously Stout will be out there as part of their package. But also, there could be a dime situation where you have Pinnock, or Brown to go along with Stout. So they do have a lot of options, and I think that this game in particular. And I think probably as the season goes on, it's a work in progress for Robert Saleh and the defensive backs coaches to figure out how the pieces fit and how they can best utilize the talent they have on this team.
A few more minutes here with Matt Mayoko, our 49ers insider from NBC Sports Bay Area. Just want to get your thoughts on the trade market right now. John Lynch was on KNBR earlier this week and said, he talked about earlier this season even having to sort of earn the right to be called a contender again. And Kyle talked about not trading away pieces that would help you next year or mortgaging anything for the future, something that could help you right now and getting the right guy. Then Diana Rossini reported yesterday that she expected the 49ers to be calling on Trey Hendrickson. The Bengals are starting Joe Burrow today, which is it's kind of wild own story in and of itself. But have you heard anything, or what's your reaction to the thought that, Hendrickson would be interesting because he's on a one-year deal and he's one of the best in the game?
Absolutely. No, I think that I would be surprised if John Lynch hasn't called on just about anybody or everybody.
Right.
And it just, it's funny because I just talked to him about this last week. And one of the funny things he said was that sometimes when you make these calls, you offend the teams you're calling, for instance, I'll just use, Trey Hendrickson as an example. If he calls and maybe he already has or will call on Trey Hendrickson, the first thing that the Bengals are going to say is like, hold it. What are you saying? Are you saying we're out of it? Why are you asking about Trey Hendrickson? So it can be a little bit touchy when you start to make those phone calls. But, I think one of the things you look at with the 49ers right now, and I just mentioned how, they have, we can debate the level of, how good these players are, but you can say that they have 4 starting caliber safeties on their team. And you can look at their running back situation and go, I know they really like Jordan James, and he might not step on the field as a rookie. Isaac Guerrero had some success last year, and he can't sniff the field. They do have Brian Robinson. So what if a team that needed a running back says, hey, we'll take Brian Robinson in a draft pick, and the 49ers have a bunch of 4th-round picks, or a team that needs a safety says, hey, we'll take Jason Pinnock in one of those 4th-round picks. Now, all of a sudden, I think you can put yourself in position to get a pretty good edge rusher. So I think those are the kinds of things that are being discussed, at least internally at this point, about who they could package, who's currently on their 53-man, maybe to get a better player or soften the blow as far as a draft pick is concerned.
Matt, final question from me. Just the 49ers win today if. What's the biggest thing that has to go right? And no, you can't say they score more points. Come on.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that to you. I would never do that to you. I think they have to generate. I think it's kind of similar to where it was last week. I think they need to win the turnover battle. I think they have to finish that streak of 12 consecutive games without an interception. I know this is a new Baker Mayfield, but he is still a gunslinger. He's still ultra aggressive. I would think at some point, maybe 2 or 3, as many as 4 points in this game, he's going to try to fit something into a tight window. Could be a ball that's deflected up in the air, whatever the case may be. But I think they have to generate a positive turnover differential to win this game. And I think they're fully capable of that. And 49ers have had Baker Mayfield's number in the past. He makes his plays, but he gives up a few as well. So I think this is the day, and maybe that's why the 49ers are kind of mixing and matching a little bit with their defensive backfield in order to find the right combination that can generate a takeaway, and I think they'll need that today.
Baker Mayfield 0-4 in his career against the 49ers, but no Nick Bosa out there, who has also owned him notably early in his tenure. Not so much in Tampa. That was more Cleveland, but still the Niners have gotten him in Tampa as well. All right, Matt, enjoy the game today. We'll talk to you this week. Thanks for the time as always.
Okay, sounds great. Copes, I'll talk to you tomorrow evening.
All right, we'll talk to you tomorrow. Matt Mayoko, our 49ers insider, NBC Sports Bay Area. Read him, watch him, follow him, listen to him on the 49ers Talk podcast. He does a great job with that always great insight from our guy, Matt Mayoko. All right, JD, we do have to make some time here for the health report, sponsored by your California Ford dealers. Visit FordNow.com to buy your next truck or SUV. We know for the 49ers in terms of health today, no Brock Purdy, no Ricky Pearsall, no Yetur Gross-Matos, no Kevin Givens. Who else am I missing? We know that we've got a banged up and questionable Mac Jones. We know that Kalia Davis going to try to give it a go with a club on his hand. We know Juwan Jennings is a game time decision. And on the other side of things, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, no Mike Evans, no Bucky Irving, no Chris Godwin, and I believe Levante David also questionable for this one.
Yeah, those are the big ones on the Tampa side, and they're pretty banged up as well. I know Adam Schefter did have the report on Juwan Jennings early this morning, one of those early ones that Jennings is expected to go. I know it's going to be contingent on maybe the pregame warm-up there. So the Niners could have a couple of options at wide receiver, at least an added option compared to what they had at SoFi against the Rams.
Adam Copeland, John Dickinson with you. The Niners and the Bucs, a 125 kickoff coming your way right here on The Sports Leader. We'll take a quick break. When we come on back, we'll hear from 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan, and then Larry Krueger joins us, The Krug Show, and, of course, Niners Nightly every night right here on The Sports Leader. When we come on back, we'll hear from 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan. Niners and the Bucs, 125, only here on The Sports Leader. Adam Copeland, John Dickinson with you. The Niners and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming your way. 125 kick right here on The Sports Leader. 4-1 against 4-1, but the Niners off of what they call the mini bye after a win in Los Angeles last Thursday night over the LA Rams, who, by the way, are not looking great. Down 3-0 in the first half with still time to play in the second quarter. Currently in Baltimore. Let's get you the game plan for this one. Building the Game Plan is sponsored by Golden State. When you succeed, we succeed. Visit us today at goldenstatelumber.com. And sponsored by River Islands. Come home to River Islands in Lathrop and discover the San Joaquin River lifestyle with its lakes, parks, and schools. Start your tour today at riverislands.com. It was for me. Kyle Shanahan, 49ers head coach, joins myself and Derek Papa every Wednesday of the football season right here on The Sports Leader on Dirty Work, don't you know? 2 to 6, Monday to Friday, every day of the week. Kyle Shanahan joined us this past Wednesday. We started the conversation by asking him about something he told us about last week, where he said, man, Sunday nights is my true bye week. Well, when you play on a Thursday, Kyle, you get to extend that bye week when you get 10 days off.
It was so awesome. I would do it Thursday every week. Like if you, I could stay up for 4 days straight if you promise me I get 3 days off every week. But no, it was awesome. Always getting that break is huge, and especially when you do it after a big win. You know, you don't get to usually enjoy wins very long in this league, and to have one like that and be able to just relax with the family and kind of recuperate before this run before our December bye week was really nice, and enjoyed it a ton.
I mean, every win is important, and there's only so many games you get a year, and you only get so many opportunities to do this. But are there some wins that, like you said, on a Thursday like that where you get some days off that really sort of embolden the team or mean a lot to a team?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, especially, you know, just how the game went, how big of a grind it was, how long it went, and just how every play mattered so much in that game, and having to overcome so many obstacles. It was such a big win, and throughout my career, I can remember some of, you know, my biggest wins on Thursday night games, and then just having those 3 days to really enjoy it. And you don't always get that in this business, and you got to move on so fast. And it sucks the other way. I've had some big losses on Thursday night football, and you just sit there for 3 days just pissed off, and it makes it a lot harder to enjoy your break. So this is one of the better ones that we've had on a Thursday game, and I wish you could have more of them.
I mean, you mentioned you coached in a lot of Thursday night games, but how difficult was this one to prepare for, given what you were dealing with injuries and just the short week, and, you know, your quarterback being out and both your starting receivers out as well?
I mean, it was a challenge, but, you know, as far as preparation and stuff, it's easier when you know what the deal is, you know, and we knew pretty early. You know, we could tell that, you know, Juwan had an outside chance, but had a pretty good idea that he wasn't going to be able to do it, even though he was trying to as much as he could. So when you do that, at least you can prepare the right way. But it is always a challenge when you're down some guys and you're sitting there watching film of someone like the Rams defense. That is a real good defense, and you know, especially starting with their front and stuff. So we knew we had a challenge, but credit to all the guys and how good they played and how hard they came out competing.
Did it help at all that you played a division opponent and had a coaching staff you're very familiar with?
I don't know about that. Like, it's you know, I guess on a short week, you know, you have an idea quicker,
right,
of what you're going against, so you can make decisions pretty fast, which you always do on Thursdays. You have to make the decisions, and sometimes I get to Thursday morning and I'm like, all right, those quick decisions I had to make on Monday and Tuesday night, I see it better right now, and I'm glad it's a night game because I can still make a few adjustments here on Thursday. Where when you're really used to going against a team on both sides, I know we didn't have to do that much, and I'm sure they didn't either, because you know what you're going to get, and it's really just about going out there. It's about the players and games like that, and you hope you have them ready to play. You hope that you put in a plan that gives them a chance that they feel confident in, and you can go out there and execute it.
Talking to Kyle Shanahan on the Uma guest line, just going back to Thursday, before Alfred Collins forced and recovered that fumble on the goal line, as an offensive play caller, what was going through your mind? Like, are you already thinking about your next play on the call sheet? Had the Rams scored with a minute left there?
I'm trying to, it looks like they're going to score, but I'm trying to decide if we're going to have to go down and get a touchdown or a field goal. And so the whole time, and we're actually set on the headsets, the question was raised, should we let them score? So we have more time to do this. And I was pretty adamant, no, we can hold them to a field goal, so let's make sure to hold them to a field goal so we can at least have a chance for a touchdown to win, or at least take this to overtime with a field goal. And then I saw the hole open, and I was like, oh, that's not going to matter. He's going in the end zone right now. And then I couldn't see the strip live. I just saw, I didn't get how the refs weren't putting their hands up for a score because I saw the hole. And then I saw our safeties cheering and stuff, and I saw our guys jump up, and we had the ball. And then I didn't get to appreciate how great of a play it was till I got on the airplane. And when I saw the play that he made, it was one of the best plays I've seen.
So once you recovered the fumble with a minute left, you're on the 1 yard line. And obviously the goal is to have the Rams burn their timeouts. But did any part of you think about throwing to pick up the first down, to be a little aggressive at the end there?
Oh, every part of me. And I still don't know what I would do if I had to do it over again, because that was one of the hardest decisions I've had in terms of, like, we were on the one, and I really what it came down to, because I could have gone either way, and what it came down to was I really felt if the Rams didn't have any timeouts, I believed worst case scenario we were going to overtime. Worst case scenario. And I believed if we gave that back to them with one timeout, the way that they had been moving into that second half, the way that they moved it the drive before, I believe that the odds were they were going to go down and score a touchdown. And so that's kind of what I made the decision on. And you're sitting there and it's 3rd and 8. And if it's 3rd and 8 and you're on your 1 yard line or 2 yard line, and when you have situations like that where you want to make someone burn a timeout, but you also want to go for it. I always tell the quarterback, hey, if no one's open, man, I'd rather you take a sack than throw this away. So that leaves the clock's going or you burn a timeout. Well, that's not an option in the end zone. And also, if you get a holding in the end zone, just like we did the week prior, right. You get a safety right there, and you don't end up making them use the timeout. And then they can go down and kick a field goal to win. And so what I'm thinking is if I call a pass play, if number one's not open right away with the things I have to tell the quarterback so he doesn't stay in the end zone long and get a holding, I'm going to have to tell him to throw it away right away.
Right.
And so with that defense and needing 8 yards, I don't think number one's going to be open. And I don't expect us to have the poise in that situation to get to number 2 to 3. So I thought it was way too big of a risk. And that's how much thought went into it during the time. But even when I got home at night, I'm like, man, that played out right. What would I do again if I had to do it over? And I'd go back and forth there, and I still do to this day. I've talked about with all the coaches, and that was it played out right. I was feeling real good when it was 4th and 4, and they were out of field goal range. Yeah. But then they got the first down, and they were going in. I'm like, all right, just hold them to a touch. Just make sure they don't get a touchdown, and we'll go win this in overtime. And that's what they did, and we found a way to do it in overtime.
I can't imagine the other way around, like you're saying. If they have a timeout, it just seems like so many things can go wrong if you do snap the ball to drop back to pass when you're in the end zone. Going to a little bit earlier in the game, the 59-yard field goal attempt, I was like, I've never really called a field goal attempt aggressive, but it felt super aggressive based on the field position had he not made that. But he made it with a few yards to spare, seemingly. I mean, tell us about the logic on going with that decision there.
Well, it was right there at his line. I thought we needed it. And I believed he could do it. So it's, he's done it before. At least I've seen him do it in practice. That was the yard line. They said that he was making them in warm-ups. The wind wasn't picking up since we were in a dome. So I felt good about that. And I felt almost a higher percentage of making that than I did on the backed up 3rd and 9 decision.
Talking to Kyle Shanahan on the Yuma guest line. You guys are going to Tampa Bay this weekend. That was your first job in the NFL as a quality control coach. What was that experience like to work with John Gruden over 20 years ago?
Oh, it was awesome. I'm so grateful that's where I started coaching. I got a GA'd at UCLA for 6 months, and then I went to Tampa in that January after our season, and got to be there with John for 2 years. And I thought that was as good of a situation for a young coach to start out with because John did everything. He ran so many things on offense. He had such an audible system. He had so many shifts and motions. And the job I had was, I had to draw all the pictures. I had to break down all the film and really just being able to do all that stuff. And it was so different than, what my dad did and, what Kubiak did. And it was a whole different experience. And, everyone thinks I started out working with my dad and stuff, but I didn't work with my dad till Washington until my second job as a coordinator. And so really my experience to coaching was John Gruden, and I was able to see football through that way. And then the next stop I went was with Kubiak, where I learned a little bit more of what the foundation of what my dad was from. But just having that, it's kind of made me see football a different way and just taught me so many things that you can do and possibilities because John did a lot of different stuff.
Was Gruden always a storyteller in the way that he is now? The guy paints a picture like almost nobody else.
Oh yeah. I always, when he got hired to do Monday Night Football, I thought that was the best hire ever. Because he was similar to that, just running coaching meetings. So, no, John was the man, and it's a shame that he's not in the league right now coaching.
Did John ever give you crap because his dad was dominant over him when he was with the Raiders?
Your dad, yeah.
Yeah. John is similar to me. He's always giving you crap about whatever it is. So it was definitely. I remember we had a play against the Broncos one time, and we had this. It was 4th and 1, and Tampa Bay's offense went for it, and the Broncos came out on a goal line defense for the first time ever in the middle of the field and just totally threw us off. And he was messing with me, but right after the game, he's like, "Did you tell your dad that? Why did they come out with that personnel? That was you, huh?" And I was like, "Are you serious? I would never do that." He's like, "I'm just messing with you, man." But
And who knows if he was? He probably meant it a little bit. But he was funny, man. He was awesome to work with.
Oh, it's great. Another minute or two here with 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan going down to Tampa to take on the Bucs on Sunday. Going to be a hot one. I saw like Matt Barrows wrote a piece about all the pickle juice you guys are drinking and everything you need to stay hydrated. How big of a challenge is the weather in a game like this?
Oh, it's huge. I know that from my experience of being there. I can't tell you how big of an advantage I felt in Tampa in those first couple months of the year. That's why we'd wear white at home. It was, and you're so used to it once you're out there. Just like when we were in Houston, not on games because we played in a dome, but you get so used to just practicing in that heat, just like I was in college at Texas. You go down to Miami at the beginning of the year, I think it's one of the biggest home field advantages that people have. I mean, that humidity is different for people, and hopefully we have a little luck with it being, at least October compared to September, and hopefully a little bit more luck with it being, I think a 4-something game instead of the 1 o'clock game. So hopefully that stuff helps, but it's going to be hot, and you better be hydrated.
Kyle, have a great trip down to Tampa after the time off. Hope it was nice, and good luck on Sunday.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, fellas. Thanks. See you
Thanks,
later.
dude. Appreciate you, man.
Stafford takes, gives Kyren Williams, and he is...
Ball out!
He fumbled it! The Niners are saying they got it. The play was shy of the line to gain. Wait for a signal. They're unpiling everybody at the 1. The 49ers come out of there. Alfred Collins has the football. Oh,
and he just punched it out from Kyren
Whoa.
Williams. and then held on to it.
Well, punched was an apt description. Adam Copeland, John Dickinson with you ahead of the Niners and the Buccaneers. 1:25 kickoff from Raymond James Stadium in Tampa for Week 6. 2 4-1 teams going at it. And we are joined now by our guy, Larry Krueger. You see him on the Krug Show on Niners Nightly, weeknights 6 to 7, right here on the Sports Leader. Krug, 4-1. And this is, as JD said earlier in the show, the marquee matchup of Week 6. How we doing, bro?
Doing well. Can't wait to see this one. A little nervous. I kind of feel like I kind of know what we're going to see in this game. So, bring it on. It should be good.
Tell me what you think we're going to see. What makes you nervous about this one? And you've been pretty good so far this year at sort of picking and pinpointing what type of game you think it may be. So what's your feel on this one? Why are you nervous, and what do you think we'll see?
I'm nervous because Mac Jones has rarely been blitzed this year, and when he has, he's struggled, and Bowles blitzes a ton. So just to give you a couple numbers, Jones has been blitzed 18% so far this year, second lowest rate in the NFL. Last season, when the Niners played Tampa, Bowles blitzed Brock Purdy 44% of the time. So when Mac Jones has been blitzed this year, that 18%, he's only completing 54% against the blitz. That's 28th in the NFL. His numbers against the blitz, 5.1 yards per attempt, 29th, 5.9 yards per completion, 30th. So Tampa's got a 53% pressure rate on blitzes. It's the third best rate in the NFL. They blitz on average 34% of the time. I would expect they're going to blitz closer to 50% of the time. And we're going to find out if Mac Jones and Kyle and the Niners offense is prepared for that extra pressure and those exotic pressures and not knowing, simulated pressures and all, everything that goes along with the full Bowles blitz package, because he's good at it.
Yeah, Krug, what are the keys to beating it? Is it get the ball out quick? I think the Bucs want Mac to get the ball out quick, but you got to have a place to throw it. What are the keys? Because you can't run it against Tampa either, and the Niners haven't been able to run it against anybody. So how do you think all that shakes out as far as how the Niners look to attack against the blitzing of the Buccaneers?
There's nothing. This is the other question is will Bowles blitz a ton, because it does give the quarterbacks kind of predefined looks. Like if Mac is handling the blitz well, what's the way to handle the blitz? The same way it is in high school, college, junior college, or any level, you throw behind it. So, the guy who you get blitzed off the left side, you throw right in the face of it to the spot that was vacated. And they'll try to rotate, and they're going to try to show him some different things pre-snap and rotate into some different things and try to fool him. So he's got to be really, really careful with the football and all the quick game stuff. But, yeah, you throw in behind it, you get the ball out quick, and, you just got to dial up your speed, of everything you're doing at the line of scrimmage, and your receivers have to get their head turned. They can't get too much into their route. They got to make sure they're helping out their quarterback.
Talking to Larry Krueger here. Krueger, a lot of people are going to get familiarized today with Emeka Egbuka. He's the guy now. No Baker Mayfield, no Chris Godwin, no Mike Evans, no Bucky Irving. He's going to be their number one target today. A career best 163 through the air or receiving last week, 7 catches. By the way, he's the first player in NFL history, 25 catches, 400 yards, and 5 or more touchdowns in his first 5 career games. What kind of talent are we seeing with this guy today?
Well, Copes, he's a veteran. Even though he's a rookie, he's really a veteran. He played a lot at Ohio State. They coached it up really well there. He was never the best receiver on his Ohio State team. There was always somebody higher rated, but I think that's what made this kid work and work and work. Last week, he took it very personal. Seattle was where he's from, and he just went off on them. With the key with him, he's got really subtle route running ability where he can sell certain routes like a veteran receiver. He's very, very, very refined. I do think the Niners have the right kind of corners, though, to take him away because they're physically dominant and they can get up in you and they can kind of dare him to go over the top. But, guys, the thing that I noticed is Mayfield to Egbuka, they've connected on 8 of 13 passes with 20-plus air yards. So they're not just connecting. They're connecting down the field. So I think you really gotta double Egbuka. There's no Evans, there's no Godwin. Kate Otton's a threat, but you got to double this rookie and you got to tilt the coverage towards him all day.
Krug, Matt Mayoko had the reporting this morning on Malik Mustafa, who is going to be back, but they're going to ease him into action, Mayoko wrote. And we had Matty on earlier. He kind of laid out Jason Pinnock seeing less time and Jair Brown being a big part of the game plan this week defensively. What do you make of just kind of the state of the 49ers safeties as Mustafa gets worked back in and they try to figure out what their best combinations are in the backfield?
I think it's smart. I really do. When you take out a safety, there's timing, there's angles, and yes, everybody deserves a chance to kind of get warmed up. But when you're a safety, you could be down in a 14-0 hole by the time you get warmed up. So I like the idea of working him back slowly. The 49er fans don't have a lot of respect for Jair Brown, but the Niner coaching staff does. And Shanahan really likes him. And I think Niner fans have gone a little too negative on Jair Brown. I think he's a pretty good player, and I think he's going to start showing it.
Krug, let's get you a player to bank on here, sponsored by Casino Matrix. Just drop in for gaming, dining, sports. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-GAMBLER and by Pacific Service Credit Union. Earn $400 cash bonus for opening an account and setting up direct deposit of $500 or more. Sign up at pacificservice.org /my400. Player to bank on today, is it another McCaffrey game? I mean, he's got over 100 scrimmage yards in each of the first 5. You always need to get him going. Limited potentially again for Jawan Jennings. I don't know how much you count on Kendrick Bourne for 10 more catches. Who's your player to bank on today?
You know what? I do like McCaffrey. I mean, Tampa Bay is the 3rd worst NFL team at defending passes out of the backfield to the running back, and nobody's better than CMC at catching that ball out of the backfield. But I'll say in the red zone, Jake Tonjes.
Yeah.
The last 2 weeks, Tampa's given up 2 touchdowns, 2 to Goddard, 2 to A.J. Barner. Tonjes, I think, is going to be a major player in the red zone today.
Krug, how do you handle Go ahead, JD.
No, I'm just going to say, do you think the Niners, kind of following up on McCaffrey, do you think they can run it? Are there ways you can run it against Tampa? They've got Vea on the inside. He's just clogging everything up. The blocking hasn't been there. We've talked about it. The running game has not been there. But are there ways you can use the Bucs defense and try to run a little bit more to the edges, or do the Niners just not have the blocking?
No, I think they're going to try it, JD. The one thing that something has to give is that the Niners and the Buccaneers are both 2 of the better teams at the NFL at winning the time of possession. The Niners are like 6th in time of possession, Tampa's 5th. They both like to dominate the ball, and for the 49ers, they got to have some run game going. They got to have some offensive balance. So I think you're right. Seattle last week averaged 6.1 a carry. They did it by getting some explosives. The Niners think they can get some. I think they can run to the edges. Levante David and Devin White, when they went to the Super Bowl a few years ago, could take away the run inside and outside. They're now more of a run defenders inside, and they're not as good getting to the edges. So, yes, I think the 49ers in this game are going to challenge the perimeter, and I think they're going to have a little bit more success than people think.
Krug, how do you handle the nerves, man? I mean, you personally, is it some Tums? Is it Pepto? You mix in some whiskey? How do we cut the nerves out for this one, dude?
A cocktail or two.
Yeah, what are you doing this early, huh?
Yeah, well, my son works at Lenardi's in Walnut Creek. I give a little Lenardi's love. I know they're a sponsor for the station. So I went and picked up. They had a deal on drumettes. I don't love chicken wings necessarily, but I love the drumettes.
Oh, okay. So you're not a flats guy. You like the actual drumettes.
I like the drumettes.
Leg, yeah.
So what we're going to do is got a little red hot sauce, kind of coated them in some red hot, and we're going to barbecue them. I got 40 of them, and I believe my 2 youngest boys will probably wolf about 30 of the 40. Probably during the game. So it's probably no. So I cook. I barbecue.
You're barbecuing to shake the nerves. Maybe get the Pepto ready for the boys for after those 40 wings. Then. All right, Krug. Enjoy the game, man. We will talk to you later. Have a good one.
Sounds good, guys. Have a good game.
Good deal. The great Larry Krueger there. Player to bank on. JD, do you have one, by the way, before we get out? Anybody you're interested in today that you're banking on today?
Yeah, for me, I think it comes down. Honestly, it comes down to McCaffrey for me as well. I think he's been the calming influence on this 49ers offense, and I think the ability to throw the ball to him, I think is going to be critical to this one, because it's just the injury to Mac Jones concerns me more than anything. I think the blitzing is something that I kind of had bookmarked as well as Krug. Like, how does Mac Jones handle that? I think they're going to try to force Mac into mistakes. If you can hit the quick dump-offs to McCaffrey, and McCaffrey can continue to be a factor in the passing game, I think that's going to be a way that the 49ers can keep the offense on the field against this Tampa defense.
I'm going to go with Mac Jones. I know it's low-hanging fruit here, but this is a guy who didn't throw in practice this week. And they've been off for 10 days. It wasn't just it wasn't a short week where you got him in some quick rest, and it wasn't a situation where he was just limited. He really didn't throw. I mean, Kyle told us on Wednesday he didn't throw, and he just sort of worked on handoffs, same sort of thing for the remainder of the week. And so, there are concerns about whether or not he's going to be able to keep the body from cramping, what the weather is going to be like. They said some humidity there, about 60% or whatever, 65% humidity, I think as it stands now, but it's still going to be a warm day there. Mac is crucial in this one. I mean, I don't anticipate seeing Adrian Martinez, but you got to keep Mac upright in this one. Some hits in this could be detrimental to him and his well-being throughout the course of this game. And we almost saw that come to fruition in the last game.
Yeah, I get the sense that the 49ers, I mean, not that they don't think Mac can't complete the game, but I think they very much have an understanding this week more than any of the games that Mac has started, that there is potential that Adrian Martinez, because Mac is so banged up, could wind up in the game. And I think, Martinez is interesting. Do the 49ers have a game plan ready for Adrian Martinez, who's a little bit more of a mobile quarterback compared to a drop-back passer? He's somebody that you could maybe look to do some zone read and different things like that. So I wonder if the Niners have a few of those plays kind of built in, or a game plan that's built in to if Martinez maybe has to wind up going in the game, because they know Mac is so banged up in a couple of different ways.
Well, in 2022, Brock Purdy did not throw a pass in practice leading up to a Thursday night game in Seattle, the game where he had like a broken rib and was himself dealing with an oblique injury. Went through the walkthrough in the ballroom of the team hotel. Ultimately did play and got a shot, I think, before the game that helped deal with some of that pain. So maybe that's an avenue that Mac Jones is going to as well. But he said they had a plan for some treatment leading up to the game, and he thought he was going to be okay to play. They got to keep him upright. They got to be careful with those blitzes today to make sure he can be in there, hopefully, for the duration of this game. Adam Copeland, John Dickinson with you. The Niners and the Bucs are coming your way at 1:25 from Raymond James Stadium. We'll have the whole broadcast for you right here on The Sports Leader in just over an hour. We'll hand it off to the broadcast team, Justin Allegri and Tim Ryan, taking you up to and through kickoff. And then JD and I will be back with you after the game. We'll take a quick break. When we come on back, a little bit from John Lynch on this game and this 49ers start at 4-1. We'll talk more about how they keep Mac Jones upright next. Adam Copeland, John Dickinson with you. It's week 6, and it's only here on The Sports Leader.
He's powerful for such a young man. Powerful hands, and obviously he's playing with a lot of confidence. You give a young guy a lot of confidence, and then the sky's the limit. So, and they're doing a good job with him too, putting him in positions to be successful. And Baker is playing at a level that's MVP quality, and so for him, like I said, big, strong, confident football player. Yeah.
As a voice of Robert Saleh, 49ers defensive coordinator, maybe the best offseason acquisition the 49ers made this year was Robert Saleh. Would you say, JD, are the MVPs of the team right now, Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh, what they've done based on the hand they've been dealt?
Yeah, Saleh's in the mix, I think, to be sure. I think Fred Warner's probably in that conversation.
Yeah,
I think
enough.
Mac Jones, Mac Jones and Christian McCaffrey could be in that conversation. I know Mac hasn't obviously played all of these games, but can you imagine if this team didn't have Mac Jones? I mean, where would they be right now? It might be 1-4 coming into this game if they didn't have Mac Jones.
We were just talking about the Cincinnati Bengals as it related to Trey Hendrickson. It was interesting, too, that Matt Mayoko, when we asked him about John Lynch calling on some of these players, per Diana Rossini's report from yesterday, that the 49ers, I think she said, were expected to call on Hendrickson, which, then begs the question, have they already? Is she saying that that's already happened, or they're about to? She's heard they're going to, or they're in the midst of doing so. But it's funny that Matt used that as the example. He said he spoke to John Lynch last week, and John Lynch said to him, it's funny when you call on some of these players, you got to be careful not to offend the other team or the other organization. And I sort of understand that, because the Bengals are sitting there going, look, we know we've lost Joe Burrow. Our hope is that we're going to get him back, and we think if we get him back and we're afloat, he's good enough to carry us the rest of the way to get us into the playoffs and maybe even make a roll of the dice run at it. And nobody in that division is running away with it. So you call a team like that and you go, hey, are you willing to talk Hendrickson? They go, what the hell's the matter with you? We're not out of this yet. We're still in it. I think anybody who's played fantasy football has run into this problem. As a guy who's got a couple of fantasy teams struggling himself, I feel offended when people come to me and try to pick over the carcass of my team. I'm like, it's week 6, all right? Let me iron this thing out. I've got some stuff I can still work with here. But in terms of what it is that the 49ers have done well this year, I think so much goes into the scheme and the game planning and how they've game planned for these injuries around guys like George Kittle being out, Christian McCaffrey shouldering the load to a tune of 30 more carries last week, or 30 more touches, I should say, in last week's game. Is this, every week is the toughest battle you've had to this point. Is Baker Mayfield, next to Matt Stafford, he's got to be the best quarterback they've seen to this point this season. How big of a threat does he pose in your mind? Because he's one of the most dangerous quarterbacks and thrives in chaos, is kind of what we were talking about earlier, even how the 49ers have played this year. But it's an uphill battle against him. And if he's within shouting distance, he's only thrown one pick on the year, and the Niners aren't picking balls off. They're not creating pressure, and he's dangerous out of the pocket. How big of a threat is he today?
He's a huge threat, and again, playing at the MVP level, as Robert Saleh mentioned there, and I think that this is without question the best two quarterbacks. Maybe Sam Darnold's in that mix, but that they're going to face really throughout the entirety of the season when you look at their schedule. So this is the toughest stretch. I think you could make the case of their entire schedule. I know Indy is better than we thought, and we all found out about Jacksonville a couple of weeks ago. But no, back-to-back, and they'll have Stafford again in mid-November with Baker Mayfield playing at the level that he is. And with him being kind of he's leading the charge as far as this mirror image of what the Buccaneers have been in comparison to the 49ers and the ability to win games in the biggest moments.
I've maybe been I don't know that my mind has ever changed as much about a quarterback or a player in the NFL as it has about Baker Mayfield. I really did. I didn't think he was Johnny Manziel 2.0 per se, but he did have the same sort of attitude, brash, boisterous, the Hard Knock season where he was a rookie and he's living in the camper van outside of the stadium, and he's got Hugh Jackson. He just did not appear to be a guy I wanted to root for and really even liked. I thought he was a gunslinger and he was fairly fun, but I didn't think it was going to work out. And again, goes back to that Tom Brady quote about failing organizations, failing young quarterbacks before young quarterbacks fail their team. Baker got to a situation where it worked out. That's the stuff of legend, rolling off the plane and winning that game against the Raiders for the LA Rams a couple of years ago, and then has really found a home and is only getting better. Again, a career high in touchdown passes last year and completion percentage. I think he led the league in touchdown passes last year. It's been really impressive to watch, and his maturity around it has made the players around him fun to watch as well. Let's hear from.
He's a leader. He's a leader. People vibe off of him. The Buccaneers team, they love playing with him and playing for him. I mean, he's a guy he'll take on defenders and get in people's faces and just fight and battle with his teammates. I thought he was done. I really did. Like, I thought it was a wrap when he was with Carolina and then ends up with the Rams in that Thursday night game you mentioned late in the year against the Raiders where they come back and win that game. I thought it was a wrap, but then he bounces back, and he's been able to be really good here now in his third season with Tampa, and now not only really good, but somebody that's performing at a top 5 level this season, I think, in terms of quarterback play, but somebody that really looks like a top 10 type quarterback for years to come.
I mean, the fact that is a theme across the NFL now, that quarterbacks in their second or third stops, guys who are top or highly touted prospects or draft picks, that in their second or third stop are finding success, tells me that we have the most talent at the position that we've ever seen in NFL history. And the evaluation of that talent is oftentimes misaligned or misguided early on. I mean, I wonder how many situations is such a big deal. You can't tell me Brock Purdy is the same quarterback if he ends up in Cleveland versus ending up in San Francisco. But we've seen this now with Sam Darnold. We may see it again with Mac Jones, finding a contract somewhere else when his time with the 49ers is done, considering how he's played to this point. We've seen it with Daniel Jones now. I mean, Daniel Jones looks fantastic in Indianapolis, what Shane Steichen has done with him. We're seeing it all over the place. Baker Mayfield is another great example of that. 49ers General Manager John Lynch joins Murph and Marcus each and every week on Wednesdays right here on The Sports Leader. John Lynch, let's hear what he has to say. The Niners GM, how does he view this team at 4-1, and is he in the market to add more pieces that can help? We talked about this earlier. What defines being a contender, and when do you know that what you're seeing is legit? Is it tangible in contender nature? Here's John Lynch on being 4-1.
We'll see. I'm having a lot of conversations, a lot of good and productive ones. It is a premium position, so teams don't like just letting those guys out the door when they're good football players. So you have to identify the right guy that, number one, is going to help us. Like I've been very clear. You're not going to find a player that's going to go replace Nick Bosa and be as effective as him. That's really difficult to do. But can you find someone who makes the entirety of our group better, such that collectively we're better? That's more in line with what we're looking for. There's so many variables, and you got to find a partner that makes sense, and so all those things. But there's plenty of discussions. Right now, I'm real proud of the way the effort our guys are playing with. And if we find a way to make our football team better and it aligns, then we will not, be shy on pulling the trigger. But we are. It's not for lack of putting in the work, and we're doing that. And if everything aligns, we'll see.
Yeah, I would think it's more likely, JD, at this point that they don't add that big splash player like a Trey Hendrickson. I think it's maybe multiple pieces in veteran nature. Could you go out and add? Somebody mentioned Arden Key last week, a guy who's familiar with the organization, and Robert Saleh, and a guy who's played well for the Niners, and Chris Kasarik in this system. The other one would be like Cam Jordan is out there with the New Orleans Saints. He's a guy on an expiring contract, a veteran, somebody who's maybe chasing that opportunity to go make a playoff run here for the Saints. They're not playing well whatsoever, though they are up right now 16-14 over the New England Patriots. I feel like adding a piece or two pieces maybe in that sort of second tier or third tier of edge rusher is where they end up, I think, ultimately. Because also we just don't know about the nature of the draft picks they made and how, they've already started to bolster the run game a little bit. Alfred Collins, a career-like play already last week. Micah Williams has played well. Kalia Davis, when on the field, has been one of the studs at D-tackle for the Niners so far this year. Would you agree with any of that, or your thoughts on any of that?
Yeah, I think the cost-benefit analysis really is – I think so much of it is what they're going to have to give up to get player X or player Y. Sure. I think that's more the way to look at it. I also think, they have to weigh how much of a benefit it would be to everybody else, to John Lynch's point, along that defensive line. If you can bring somebody in that in this scheme can be an elite pass rusher, even if it is just for half the season, allowing, in essence, can you get somebody that's a one or closer to a legit one, maybe not a Bosa, that allows Huff to be more of a legitimate two, because I think he can thrive more in that particular role. But I think every time I hear John Lynch speak to this issue, Copes, I think they need to keep winning. They need to keep winning and keep forcing the front office to believe that this team can be a legitimate contender, because I think it goes back to that original expectation of not necessarily believing that was the case coming into this year the way that they did in 24 and 23 and 22. Continue to prove it, the team on the field week in, week out. I think that's where a game like today is so important, because all of a sudden maybe the 49ers are the favorite, or at least right there in the conversation with the schedule that they have ahead to contend for a 1 seed in the NFC and have some tiebreakers in the division and potential tiebreakers over a team like Tampa today if you win this game. So to me, it's continue to win and continue to prove that you're beyond just a really good playoff team, and with that one player, you can actually become a team that can compete and contend with the Phillies and the Lions and the some of those teams in the AFC.
Yeah, I'm with you. I would tend to agree with that, in that, like, what are you willing to give up is based on how good you think you are. Are you getting something because if the team is not, like last year, they weren't going to go and add anything because the team wasn't going anywhere. They were an expensive team, right? And they saw how many draft picks they had this year and needed to take the shot on all those, right? They had to try to, they really needed, we said this, like 5 or 6 of these players end up being starters. And all of a sudden, the last 2 drafts are looking okay. Early on, the dividends that they're yielding right now from the 2025 draft have been solid to this point. The 2024 draft,
like
even team winners. Yeah.
One more year of that. It feels like they want at least one more year of that.
So I wonder, window of those picks, yeah.
Exactly, and having them all become guys where you look up and it's like, damn, these are your most important players on the roster.
They've already done it. Yeah, they've already found that level of success with Fred Warner and Azeez Al-Shire and Dre Greenlaw and Nick Bosa, like Demo Lenore. Like, they've already had that success. So I'm with you. A third year of that is key, I think, in their plans.
So I'll give you one more. Do you think they'd be more open to maybe a 27? Because if you hit on 26 and you're better in 25, maybe you've got this next wave of being a contender in place. Maybe they'd be more willing to part a little bit farther out, because they think, or at least the hope is, that you're going to draft well enough and be in a capable enough position to where if you are giving up a 1, or let's say you're maybe more likely giving up a 2, it's a 2 that's deeper, closer to 60, as opposed to maybe more middle of the pack.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, because we're both talking about this, and I can tell by how you're asking, and we're talking years now, we're both talking about this purely from a draft pick standpoint, which is interesting, because if we're talking about like a mid-level player, a player where you can give up a low-level draft pick for it, Matt Mayoko was just on with us talking about potentially moving a player like Brian Robinson or a Jordan
I don't
James.
think he has any value. Does Robinson have any value? Does Pinnock have any value?
I think Jordan James has more.
In trade.
In a trade, maybe that and a pick swap is what I'm saying. Maybe it's something like that. And you're getting away with a little bit because of a pick swap you're giving up. And if it is a young player, if it's a Jordan James or somebody like that who may not see the field anyway, maybe there's a little bit more value there. I perked up because when somebody like Matt Mayoko says something like that, I go, what are you talking about over here? Why this seems like an outside of the box idea. Well, normally it's not a player for player swap in season. It's a team selling, looking for assets for next year.
You're right, and I kind of perked up as well, because I was surprised, because and frankly I was surprised. I was intrigued, but I was surprised because I didn't think. To me, that would lead to, if you're trading those kinds of players and picks, to me you're not getting any of these. You're not getting Kayvon Thibodeau. You're not getting Hendrickson. You're not getting, like, to me that's almost a tell that maybe you're looking to get creative and go a little bit farther down the board in terms of best available potential trade candidates at the deadline. Like, you're kind of trying to thread the needle where you have your cake and eat it too a little bit. You're not really giving up anything you really, really, really need, whether it's for this year or in the future, but you're also enhancing the roster in a way that maybe it needs to be enhanced. So, that was, I didn't love that idea as much, or think that would lead to kind of the big name that I think a lot of people would be hoping for.
Well, that's kind of what we're looking at for what's on deck for the 49ers in terms of the trade market. By the way, What's on Deck is sponsored by TimberTech Decking and Railing, #1 in premium decking. Order free samples at timbertech.com. Well, after the 49ers beat the Rams last Thursday, just about everything that could go their way did go their way, certainly across the NFC and even more specifically across the NFC West. What is going on right now in the NFL in Week 6? We'll whip around. We'll get you some scores and some updates about what's going on with the NFC West and some of the games that have already completed early. We had a London game this morning in Week 6. More to come. Adam Copeland, John Dickinson with you. We will in a bit, by the way, go up to the broadcast booth and check in with our guy. I think, is it Justin Allegri we're talking to today? Maybe it's I'm getting the nod from our guy Kyle here. It's going to be Justin Allegri who's on the call today with Tim Ryan. We'll talk to the broadcast booth in just a little bit. Plus, your 49er player spotlight and some scores from around the NFL are next before the Niners take on the Bucs. A 125 kick. And it's all coming your way right here on The Sports Leader.
Minute 14 to go. This is essentially the game as the Jets are out of timeouts. Fields avoids the sack until he can't. Jonathan Cooper, the first in.
Was that a little London game highlight? Adam Copeland, John Dickinson with you. Week 6 in the NFL upon us. JD, we got a record 7 international games this year. I think we've already seen like 5 of them, 4 of them, or something like that. They played a game in London today, Broncos and the Jets. They had a game last week in London, 2 weeks ago in Dublin. They opened the season in Brazil. They're playing in Australia next year. It's getting wild out here, bro.
Yeah, and I think the 49ers potentially going back to Mexico next season as well. So that keep an eye on that. But yeah, this is 4 weeks in a row, I believe, maybe 3, or it's gonna. Next week's the
Certainly
4th. Where
3,
there's been
yeah.
that 6:30 a.m. game on the West Coast because of the overseas play. I love it. I think it's great. It's something to keep an eye on early in the morning. And I just love the more standalone games you can get, the better, because it just helps the ability to follow the league and understand what's going on.
13-11 Broncos over the Jets. A real barn burner, an offensive explosion for this one. Dude, the Jets are 0-6 as it stands right now. Like, as hard as it is to project a team, what their playoff record may be, we sit there with the schedule. When the schedule comes out, we go, that's a win, that's a loss, that's a loss, that's a win. And you run through the games. I don't know that I can find a victory for the Jets on their schedule that I feel real confident about 6 games in here into the Aaron Glenn era. I mean, the Panthers are playing better football right now. They get the Panthers next week through the Jets. Then they go at the Bengals. Maybe the Bengals, we'll see, but now they've got Joe Flacco there. See how that looks. The Browns' defense is good enough, I think, to win them a game 6-3 over the Jets. At Patriots, at Ravens, against the Falcons, Dolphins, Jags, Saints, Pats, Bills. We're looking at, I feel like at most maybe 3 wins for the Jets at this juncture.
Yeah, they'll. I think they will find a couple in there somewhere, but they have been competitive in a lot of these games, including today. I mean, they came back at Raymond James Stadium and darn near beat the Bucs, blocked a kick, and then Baker Mayfield went down and ended up beating him in the final seconds, as he's been prone to do this year. Had the big drive at Houston as well. So the Jets have been competitive in a lot of these games. So I think they'll pick one off here. They'll pick a couple off here and there.
And then the other game Thursday night, the Giants over the Eagles 34-17. How surprising was that to you? Cam Scatterbo and Jackson Dart. I'd say at least vibe-wise, things are feeling better for the New York Giants. They've got to put together a competitive rest of the year. I'm looking for growth. They're going to continue to make these mistakes, but they've got an intriguing or interesting young duo, at least, there they found in this draft. And Jackson Dart, I think I need to see more of him in the pocket and throwing, but at the very least, people are feeling better, I guess, in Big Blue Nation.
Yeah, stunning would be the word that I would use. That the Giants not only beat them, but really dominated.
Destroyed them. Didn't give up a point in the second half. Yeah.
Yeah, the Eagles finding themselves kind of back where they were with some turmoil at this point last year after taking a couple of losses, and they figured out. But it seems like maybe the disease of more, the disease of me, seeping back in with the Eagles after they win that title. I mean, that typically is what happens, right? When teams get to the title or win the title, you come back and everybody kind of gets their own agenda. Part of why it can be so difficult to repeat, as much as coming into the year we all thought, wow, the Eagles, who's going to be able to beat the Eagles coming out of the NFC? So they've proven themselves to be more vulnerable. And the other part of it, as far as it relates to that game, is I'm always looking around at teams that the 49ers are going to eventually play. I know Carolina came up. They've got the Monday Nighter there the week of Thanksgiving at Levi's scheduled, and the Giants are a team that the 49ers are going to see, 3 weeks from today.
At the Meadowlands,
they'll be in New York, yeah. And the Giants have, those games where Jackson Dart, they go down and turn it over a bunch of times against the Saints. The Giants do, but you look at the last 2 home games, they beat the Chargers when the Chargers were rolling, and they beat the Eagles, who obviously are a contending type team in the NFC and the defending Super Bowl champions. So the Giants have been tough the last couple of games at home. That's one you got to keep in mind here as the Niners look toward the middle part of their schedule.
Well, the 3 teams we're paying attention to, of course, when it's not the 49ers, are the 3 teams in the NFC West. They're all in action right now. The Colts right now are taking on the Cardinals at home in Indy, another team the Niners are going to see this year. The Colts are up right now 14-10. Cardinals do have the ball, and they're driving. They're into the red zone now at the Indy 17. No Kyler Murray in this one as the Cardinals look to get back on the winning side of things. Jacoby Brissett is
audio level check 1 2, test 1 2, check 1 2, test 1 2.
25. 14 of 25, 165 yards and an interception. Jonathan Taylor in this game, 9 carries for 63 yards. Dan Jones does have both a passing and a rushing touchdown. In terms of the other games in the NFC West, the Seahawks are at the Jaguars. Jaguars looking to make it a 5-1 start. They're undefeated at home, though the Seahawks right now are up 13-6. Sam Darnold had a huge touchdown pass, 65 yards to Jackson Smith and Jigba earlier in the game. He's got 6 grabs for 130 and a touchdown. He looks really, really good. And the Rams are on top of the Ravens right now. Rams with a huge defensive stand before the end of the first half held off Derrick Henry from getting into the end zone. The Rams lead it 10-3 with 11:52 to play in the third. Matt Stafford, 14-23, a fumble and 153 yards passing. They did just get a touchdown, by the way, from Kyron Williams, who scampered in for a touchdown. In that game, by the way, Derrick Henry is playing a little bit better. 18 carries for 90 yards, though Cooper Rush not getting it done for them offensively. Some of the other scores from across the NFL in Week 6. Chargers are trailing the Dolphins 13-9. The Patriots are up 22-16 on the Saints, 11:28 to play in the third quarter. Steelers are up 9-3 on the Browns. That's a survivor game I know a lot of people are paying attention to in their survivor pools. I decided to go with the JD. I went with the Colts. That's who I rolled with. We still have JD there with the audio back there, Kyle? Yeah, I got the Colts.
Yeah, the Colts are. I mean, I think I probably. I mean, man, a lot of people probably had the Eagles. I think a lot of people maybe had the Broncos today, and you went out obviously if you had the Eagles. Broncos are a team that ultimately survived. Yeah, Colts with Brissett in there, but the Colts they're 4-1 and they've earned it, but are they really that good? I think everybody's kind of waiting for them to take a weird
It's
loss.
the 49ers situation. Yeah, we're all kind of like, do we believe what we've seen at the Colts? I kind of buy, though. I'm kind of buying their defense. I'm buying what Dan Jones is putting out there. Michael Pittman's their number one receiver. Hasn't done much of anything today. 1 catch for 9 yards. I have no reason to be watching that closely either. Except that I'm looking for points from him. By the way, as we were talking, the Seahawks just got into the end zone again. A touchdown pass to Cooper Kupp from Sam Darnold. 20-6 now, Seattle over the Jacksonville Jaguars. You pointed out the Brissett revenge game for the Cardinals. Jacoby Brissett revenge game against the Colts. We've also got a Rico Dowdle revenge game. Panthers over the Cowboys right now, 20-17 from Carolina. Panthers are not playing bad ball, dude. Bryce Young has looked okay. He's 11-14 right now. I mean, he's one of the guys who surprised me in the back half of last season. I felt like we saw a real jump in his productivity.
He got better, and they've been better, and competitive, surprisingly. And, yeah, the Cowboys have been kind of a weird team. This is the game kind of for them where you think, hey, the Cowboys have been playing well. They'll go and beat the Panthers. Nope, Panthers beat them, kind of like when they went to Chicago and the Bears beat them earlier in the year. But, yeah, some quick takeaways. The Seattle Jaguars game has been an absolute just grudge match in terms of physicality. Seattle, though, and the Jags, the emotional impact of the Monday night home victory. They stay home, but short week. Seattle comes cross-country off of the loss to Tampa Bay, and Seattle's had enough. Interesting, just because we've seen the Niners and saw them struggle so much with the Jags. Little different schedule scenario with the Seahawks having that one-day rest advantage off of an emotional game for the Jags. So that's proving to be in the Seahawks' favor to this point, and the Rams struggling. The Rams have some kicking and special teams issues that have been prolonged in this game. I saw it kind of being thrown around on social media. If the Rams need a new kicker, would they go get Jake Moody?
I don't know. I mean,
oh my goodness, can you imagine?
You might want to go. You might want to. I mean, you'd hold tryouts, but you couldn't really try him out. You would just have. The problem is, you just have to sign him. You couldn't try him out. You would just have to take him from the Bears practice squad. They couldn't try him out. So I would go.
Could you imagine Jake Moody winding up on the Rams and being their kicker for the next 10 years? You imagine the McVay, Shanahan, Cabo conversations then.
Can you imagine that, dude? Sitting on the banana boat, a la Dwayne Wade.
I took your kicker.
Yeah, dude.
I took your third-round kicker.
And just like the banana boat with Chris Paul and who else was it? Chris Paul, LeBron, and Dwayne Wade on the banana boat. We got Matt Stafford, McVay, and Moody hanging out together down in Cabo. But yeah, their kicking problems. I mean, they have by the way, the Rams just found the end zone again. So the Rams now back into the end zone. They're up 17-3 on the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore. And again, Ravens sort of lifeless without Lamar Jackson, and they were struggling anyway. They look to drop to 1-5 with a loss here. That would be pretty incredible. In terms of what you were just talking about there with the kicking situation for them, Josh Carty, the former Stanford kicker, he missed one today off the upright, and actually didn't kick well last week against the 49ers either, so maybe something to pay attention to there. But the Rams have a chance here to move to 4-2, which, again, just keeps that pressure on the 49ers. The Bengals and the Packers later today. How about that note that Joe Flacco looks to become the first ever quarterback? I was asking Derek earlier this week if that had ever happened. Had a QB ever beaten one team twice in the same season for two different teams? And apparently the answer is no. Joe Flacco looks to do that today. He beat the Packers with the Browns earlier this year in a knock 'em down, drag 'em out, just defensive battle. The Packers couldn't score before their bye week. I think that was week 4 And then the Bengals traded for Joe Flacco. I'm sort of surprised he's starting this week, but the guy will not leave the AFC North. I mean, he's, by the way, going to get the Steelers on Thursday night. That feels like a legacy game for Joe Flacco, but Bengals-Packers this afternoon.
Stunning to see, to me, that the Bengals are trying to keep up the mirage of being in the race. That's and I get it. They're 2-3, and nobody's running away with it. You've said it a couple of times already.
It's just sort of
but
funny,
I just don't see how that, Joe Flacco had the one storybook year with the Browns. But to me, that's it. He looked done last year. He's looked done when he's gotten opportunities to play this year. I mean, we'll see how it ultimately shakes out with Joe Flacco. But I think the Bengals are going to have to admit the hard truth here coming up pretty soon that their season is done.
Yeah, I mean, they're sitting here going, hey, we're only a game and a half back of the Steelers, and we play them next week. So we get a win today. We're very much alive. But I'm with you. In the AFC playoff picture, it's just it's a gauntlet, and it'll be really, really tough. I don't see more than one team at this point coming out of that division, the AFC North, just based on the way things have gone so far and with Lamar Jackson banged up and out. We'll take a quick break. Adam Copeland, John Dickinson with you ahead of the Niners and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We're still going to go up to the broadcast booth, check in with our guy Justin Allegri, who's on the call today with Tim Ryan for a 125 kick. Do we have the actives and inactives? We can get those to you when we come on back, and we'll get you your 49er player spotlight. More to come as the Niners 4-1 take on the 4-1 Buccaneers from Tampa, only here on the Sports Leader. Adam Copeland back with your 49er player spotlight ahead of week 6 of the NFL season, which has seen the 49ers to this point start at 4-1 as they get ready to take on the 4-1 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And one of the themes of the Niners all season has been who steps up today. Well, that brings us to our 49er player spotlight, and it's a guy who was familiar with Mac Jones just last season, having played with him, or last 2 seasons, I should say, 2 years ago, having played with him in New England, and that's Kendrick Bourne, who was the key offensive weapon through the air for the 49ers last week. We know, of course, about Christian McCaffrey, 30 more touches, 139 combined yards from scrimmage and a receiving TD in last week's game, but they do not get this win against Los Angeles without Kendrick Bourne, who goes for a career-high 142 yards receiving on 10 catches. By the way, he logged only 205 yards receiving through 12 games all of last season, 142 in this one alone. Kendrick Bourne, a career day against the Rams, was the player of the week this week and joined Murph and Marcus right here on The Sports Leader. And he was asked by the guys, what has changed with Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers since he was last here in 2017?
It's just an honor to even be a part of the story in the beginning. Obviously, it was my first year here and Kyle's first year. That was a big part of my decision coming here, was Kyle being a new coach and, him just being a young guy trying to figure out if I could make a team. So just trying to go somewhere where I had the best chance, and I felt like here it was. And so to see Kyle operate back then was pretty similar. He was serious about it. Obviously he's the offensive guru in my eyes and a lot of people's eyes. So understanding that, learning that is kind of how he's operating now. And I think him and John just putting the right pieces together has been dope. I think they've kept the same mindset since coming back. It's felt like that. The energy's been great. But just back then, with building and trying to build a team, it's a crazy process to see. So just being younger, I didn't really understand as much as I do now back then, but it's just an honor now to be where I'm at and the learning of the business and how things affect other things, just money and sometimes players want a better opportunity. Some players leave, other players come in. So it's a lot that goes into it. So to learn that now and see how John and them know how to put things together, it's just awesome to see. And you see the result. Obviously we play for the biggest goal is to win it all, and that's what they're working towards, and they've been very close. I've experienced it once in 2019, and that's why I honestly came back too, because I missed that culture, I missed that feeling, and I'm here to just help. But I think it's the same, and I think they're on the right mindset. It's just about, getting it done, man.
Well, he had a rough game against the Jacksonville Jaguars and came right back and helped the Niners with a huge win over the Rams on Thursday. Again, 305 total yards all of last year receiving for Kendrick Bourne. He's already at 229 in just 4 games this season, has already matched his first down total from last year. He's more than just a fill-in. Kendrick Bourne is this week's 49er Player Spotlight.
see
we
each
had
other.
some tremendous times, and as I said, I am super proud of him. Can't wait, and I do believe this. I think whoever wins this game Sunday, these two teams are going to face each other in the playoffs, and whoever wins, that's where the game's going to be.
Tony Dungy, a bold prediction for this one, former Tampa Bay Buccaneers head coach. Let's go out to Tampa, to the broadcast booth, and check in with a man who will be on the call today, Justin Allegri, alongside Tim Ryan. Justin, what's going on, man? How you doing, bro? Welcome to the broadcast. What's going on?
Oh, well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Yeah, really looking forward to this one.
We're looking forward to having you, man. So it's first game you've called this year, so nice to get your perspective sort of coming in week 6 on what you've seen from the Niners. We haven't gotten your thoughts really on how this season is shaken out. What JD and I toy with seemingly every week now is, what do we know about this 4-1 team, which is a weird question to ask about a team that's 4-1. Where are you?
Well, I think you know that they're pretty gritty and they can figure out how to win football games with whatever personnel is on the field. That much is certain, because you name another team that can lose as many power players that they have so far this year on offense and on defense and still goes on the road and wins some football games and starts their division 3-0. There's really, you can't compare that to anything right now. So the fact that they've got the 4-1 record, the fact that they're so good on the road, the fact that they've got the jump start in the division, and they're at some point going to get healthy, you're really feeling confident. And it's a credit to the coaching staff and to the players for being ready, for second-string guys being ready, the coaching staff understanding how to use those second-string guys to put them in a position where they're feeling very confident almost a third of the way through the season now.
Justin, how exciting is today when you look at, it's 4-1 versus 4-1, but you look at how both of these teams have done it to get to 4-1.
Yeah.
A lot of late-game heroics, a lot of winning the biggest moments. And both, the term I always use is chaos junkies. I think both these teams have been chaos junkies. The crazier it gets, the more at home it seems like they feel and play well in those situations.
There's a lot of similarities in the way these two are winning games right now. Buccaneers aren't without their share of injuries either. They've had some significant players go down, in particular in their secondary this season. But you're right. If we think the 49ers are winning close games, the combined total is 13 points in 4 games. For the Buccaneers, it's 9 points in 4 games, and the offense over the last couple of minutes it really has been tremendous, and they're moving the ball well. They're doing what they need to, but it all starts with Baker Mayfield. He is playing his best football of his career, and he's really revitalized his career coming here and taking over this team. This is a very legitimate football team that the Niners are going to take on this week, and they're figuring out ways to win, just like 49ers are.
Well, what's concerning about Baker, Justin, is he's gotten better and better every year. He's coming off a year where he completed over 70% of his passes, led the league in touchdown passes with 41 or something last year. He's only got 1 interception this season to the 10 touchdowns, and that happened in the game against Philly where they were trying to mount a comeback, so he was throwing a lot in the second half of that game. He doesn't have a lot of his weapons, but if he gets some time to throw, he's a guy who can extend plays and can beat you downfield and when plays break down. What's the biggest concern in containing him today with a team that has been inefficient in the pass rush?
Yeah, I think that's one of the keys to this one overall. Baker Mayfield, he can really get out in some space, use his legs, and then still can throw on the run. And while he's got 2 receivers in Mike Evans and Chris Godwin that aren't going to play in this game, he has got some weapons still that he can utilize. Emeka Egbuka is probably going to be the offensive rookie of the year in the NFL, at least the way he's going right now. That's what it looks like. And he's used him to the best of his capabilities this season. But to me, we can talk a bunch about the lack of pressure on quarterbacks from this 49er defensive line, especially after losing Bosa, but it's going to be just continuing the pursuit. You may not hit Baker Mayfield a lot today, but you got to continue pursuit. You got to make him move laterally, and you got to make him throw on the run and make some decisions that could put him in those positions like you talk about to throw some interceptions. Because I look at his numbers over his career, and he's a 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio guy. Now, it's a little bit better here in Tampa Bay, about 3-to-1, but you mentioned the numbers. It's 10 touchdowns to 1 interception this year. So I think at some point that's got to start to come back toward at least what the career numbers have been for him. And maybe if they're not putting a bunch of pressure on him, it means that guys in the secondary can try and play lockdown and see if they can jump a route and turn him over, because that's going to be a big one for the 49er defense today.
Justin, we've talked about it every week he's been out there, but how impressive has Mac Jones been? Just not only the ability to perform at a high level, make all the throws, but just the toughness, which again is going to be tested here now, not only with the knee, but I think with the oblique, which is probably the bigger issue coming into this game.
I think that is probably more the concern. Obviously, you're concerned about the knee too, but the oblique just causes so many other problems when you're trying to move around in the pocket, when you're trying to make the big throws, you use the whole body. That is a concern here today, and especially with the way that this Bucs defense has operated, they're going to limit that run game, and they're going to try and put him to the turf as much as possible here today. But we mentioned Baker's numbers. Mac Jones, his passing numbers every game this year have improved, and it was certainly capped off by last week's performance where he was really at his best. So I expect him to be just as gritty as we've seen him in every week so far this year, and that's kind of what his mark has been to this football team. And when you're a backup quarterback and you got 3 wins under your belt, you're feeling pretty confident no matter where you go.
Juwan Jennings is going to give it a go today. I mean, he's been a game-time decision in a few games already this season, and has gritted it out through a number of different injuries and made some big plays and some big catches in the games that he has played. I mean, how much does the offense change with him, adding him to what Kendrick Bourne did last week? They're still getting DeMarcus Robinson up to speed, but no Ricky Pearsall yet again. Just nice to have another veteran receiver out there.
And it's important, too, because of the injuries that Tampa Bay secondary has had. You need a guy that can take the top off of that defense. And while it was great to see Kendrick Bourne do what he did last week, you can't expect those type of numbers or close to those type of numbers from Bourne week in and week out. The 49ers need some of their top-tier wide receivers to really put a dent in some of these defenses. So you bring in Jennings, and now, all right, Kendrick Bourne is that second guy. DeMarcus Robinson can do some stuff in some space, and you really start to spread that secondary out, and you have more options for Mac moving down the field. Even if Juwan doesn't play a full amount of reps in this game, he's going to impact the game just being on the field and allowing those other guys to maybe have some big play chances.
So much of this game is I think, how the 49ers handle the blitz. You know, Todd Bowles, they're going to blitz. You know the Bucs are going to bring pressure. You mentioned, Justin, the end they don't let teams run it on them. Are there areas in which you think the Niners can run effectively? And how important do you think how they handle the blitz will be as it is against any Todd Bowles defense?
I thought it was interesting that Kyle Shanahan talked about this week. I think the question was, you want to be close to 50-50 on passing and run throughout the season, but he was noting that Bowles is going to make you try and think one-dimensional, and how do you counterbalance that? I think the 49ers are going to have to try and establish some sort of run game. Now, that's going to be difficult because there's only been one running back this year that has rushed for 50 yards, and nobody has done 100 since last year, and that was Derrick Henry. So it's going to be a challenge, but in particular, if you're in the lead in the fourth quarter against this team, you're going to have to run for some first downs. You're going to have to try and bleed the clock, because if you get it back into Baker Mayfield's hands, we've already seen what he's done this year with the 2-minute drill to come back and win himself some football games. So it's going to be pivotal. I don't know necessarily if it's going to be needing to be the bulk of the offense, the big amount of runs that we see, but certainly in the fourth quarter, that's going to be a key element in this one.
All right, we've had Guy Haberman call games this year. We've had Carlos Ramirez call a game. You're our third play-by-play man in for this season in 2025. None of the other guys have gotten a rushing touchdown or an interception. Can you bring us one of those today, Justin?
You know, I will see what I can do for you. I went down to the turf. I feel pretty good about it, but I have zero control up here, my friend.
Any thought on what happens first? I mean, that's maybe the most perplexing thing to me is that, and JD and I were talking about it leaving the game on Thursday last week. We were like, we got to hit up Josh Dubois of the AP, and he gave us the note. No team in NFL history has ever even gone the first 5 games without both an interception forced or a rushing touchdown, and the Niners have done so in their 4-1.
How about that? And they have Christian McCaffrey, and they have a pretty darn good defense to go on top of it. So it doesn't make any sense. You know, you look at the turnover ratio; they're -3 in turnover ratio, and not a lot of winning football teams have a negative turnover ratio either. But that just tells you how good that their passing offense has been, how they've been able to just make something out of what is in front of them overall this season. So just because Christian McCaffrey's not running the ball, he is still very much affecting these games with his catching ability and his ability to break some tackles in some space, and maybe that'll be a big factor here today too.
Well, I think they're getting one of each today. I think they're getting a pick, and I think they're getting a rushing touchdown. So
Well,
put that on the
just,
board.
that's
All
just
right.
lazy, JD. You picking both, dude? Come on. You got to. Give me
Well,
a hot
I mean,
take, bro.
I
Give me one.
think they're going to get the pick first.
Okay,
I think
okay.
they're going to get the pick first, but one would have to happen before the other. They can't happen at the same time, even if they happen in the same game. So I think they're going to get the pick first.
So you're saying maybe pick 6 before a rushing touchdown?
I think they're getting. I'm not saying it's a pick 6, but they're
Okay.
going to get the pick. They're going to get an interception before they get a rushing touchdown, but I think they're going to get both in this game today. I think Baker's going to throw them one, and I think they're going to be, first and goal on the 2, and they're going to get it in.
You heard it here first.
I like that, dude. You know what I'm going to go with, too? I'm going to go more specific. I'm going to go with Fred. I think Fred's the guy who gets one. He's been close so many times already this year on tipped balls or not ones that he's even tipped up to himself. I'm going with Fred Warner as the guy who gets the pick today.
I think also we should mention that Fred Warner's 5 tackles away from the franchise record.
Hey, come on, man.
He's gonna pass Patrick Willis today. So think about that and what he's meant to this 49er defense over the years. I mean, he's going to get there today. And you're right. I mean, how many tipped chances has Fred had this season to try and get a pick? There have been multiple of those. So if it's going to happen today, it's Baker Mayfield's the guy to probably do it. So we'll see.
See if we can force more than just one interception against him today. Pretty incredible. Fred Warner may do that in the first half of today's game, by the way, become the all-time leader in tackles for the 49ers. Justin Allegri, the voice you hear, he'll be on the call today at 1:25. We'll hand it over to him in about 10 minutes with him and Tim Ryan taking you up to and through kickoff. Justin, have a great call, man. Great to have you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it, guys.
Appreciate it, man. The great Justin Allegri. All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come on back, we'll get you the actives and inactives and our final thoughts on the keys for this one. Adam Copeland, John Dickinson. It's week 6. The Niners and the Buccaneers both at 4-1 from Raymond James Stadium, and it's only right here on The Sports Leader. Adam Copeland, John Dickinson, get ready to hand it over to Justin Allegri and Tim Ryan, who take you up to kickoff at 1:25. The Niners and the Bucks right here on The Sports Leader. Our final thoughts here in time for our keys to the game, sponsored by your Bay Area Chevy dealers. Visit BayAreaChevroletDealers.com. And the keys to the game can only be done, JD, if we know who's playing in this game. The actives and inactives out for the 49ers and the Bucks. Anything of significance, or do you want to give us those inactives?
Yeah, we'll just run them down real quick. As expected, Brock Purdy and Ricky Pearsall among the 49ers inactives, along with Yetur Gross-Matos. Jordan James, Jordan Watkins, and Nick Martin all inactive for the 49ers. So Juwan Jennings, as you mentioned, is good to go for San Francisco. And then a lot of the names that we knew on the Tampa Bay side as well, with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin Jr., along with Bucky Irving inactive, in addition to a couple of cornerbacks, Zion McCollum out, as well as Benjamin Morrison, and then running back Josh Williams inactive for Tampa in this game.
Good to know. So the 49ers, no big surprise this year. Juwan Jennings is going to give it a go. So they've got more weapons on hand than they did even last week against the LA Rams. Just a final thought from you here, JD, as you pointed out earlier. You were asking earlier, yes, Matt Mayoka, the 49ers win if. Larry Krueger told us I'm a little nervous about this one. It always cracks me up when Krug is nervous about a ball game that he's not playing in himself. But this is an intriguing game for the Niners. And again, if the season ends today and they win, they're the number one seed in the NFC. And this game does mean a lot in terms of NFC stature. How do they win this one? How do they come away with a victory?
If they're good against the blitz, that's to me what it boils down to. I think how does Mac Jones and the 49ers offense handle the Tampa Bay blitzes? If we're talking about a win, it's going to be because the 49ers made some plays against the Tampa blitz and didn't allow for it to wreck the game with a critical mistake.
Yeah, I think that's it. You got to win the turnover battle here. You're going to have to win the game on the ground as well. They're going to have to manufacture, like they have already this year, some sort of ground attack and offense. I mean, I think Kendrick Bourne's going to keep them honest. I think having Juwan Jennings is effective and helps you in the run game for sure. I don't know what role he plays precisely in the pass game, but you got away last week with some quick throws and some quick releases from Mac Jones. You got to keep him upright. For me, that's the number one key to the game, is make sure he's capable of finishing this game. For a guy who did not throw all week in practice and has been out for some time since last week's game. I mean, you want the rust to not be there, but you want to make sure he can get through this game. Pickle juice and bananas. With the banana game last week, no cramping for Mac Jones. We're going to keep him upright and keep that pocket clean. We'll be signing off here as we hand it over to Justin Allegri and Tim Ryan, who will take you up to kickoff at 1:25 right here on The Sports Leader. Thanks to Kyle Haar and Tim Webb, our producers here at The Sports Leader today. Thanks to Matt Mayoko, our 49ers insider from NBC Sports Bay Area, and to Larry Krueger, who, by the way, you can hear on the postgame show. He'll join us to break down how this one went down, and we'll get a final win count from him too. How many of his 40 drumettes did he put away that he picked up at Lenardi's in Walnut Creek? That's what Krueger.
I'm taking the over on 40 there. Yeah. Also,
he said his kids were going to eat 30
or
of the
30
40
or whatever he said.
I was like, no way, you're only eating 10 wings this whole game, Larry. No, I sit with you in the press box. You're putting away more than that, dude. I know it's
going to have to go get another. You're going to have to go for another run.
It might be the first half. And stay tuned, by the way, for that Fred Warner potential record breaker. 5 tackles to become the all-time leading tackler in 49er history, and that could and should go down today. All right, the Niners and the Buccaneers are coming your way. JD and I will be back with you on postgame. I'll be with you for your halftime show, but it's Week 6, the Niners and the Bucs from Raymond James Stadium right here on The Sports Leader.